Now, David, with respect to this crowd, there was a lot of concern in the days leading up to this verdict about a negative fan reaction. Security was increased. Has that come to fruition? Is everybody behaving themselves out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a jubilant situation out here. I mean, it's like celebrating a sports team winning a pennant. I mean, it's not an angry crowd. I think it would have been a lot different of a feel if the verdicts had gone another way. But it was such a complete slam dunk, clean case for the defense all the way up and down. I don't think his fans have nothing to cheer today.
Now the opposite side of that, or the corollary of that, David, obviously, is that it's a bad day for the prosecution. What do you make of this, and what signal does it send to that side of the table, of the aisle?
Well, I didn't have a chance to see them from my vantage point. I look forward to seeing what they're about to say in their own press conference. But I had to believe that coming into this case and even going into deliberations, that the prosecution knew that this was far from a strong case. They knew they needed to have some breaks go their way, and I thought some breaks did go their way with the 1108 evidence going against Mr. Jackson and the strength of that final police video. I thought was enough that could have put him over the top, but obviously it wasn't, that there was just too much baggage on the part of too many witnesses for the DA.
Absolutely. Well, David Lee, New York Post reporter, we know you got a lot of work to do. We thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
James, thank you.
Thank you. The idea, and obviously David's comments come as no surprise, a jubilant crowd, but maybe a little bit of surprise, a rather stoic, with one exception, defense table. What do you make of that?
Well, I can just say, having been involved in the O.J. Simpson case, I was really numb and like Susan, you, sobbing. I mean, the intensity, again, of waiting to hear, just waiting to hear what comes out of the clerk's mouth and knowing that it means what's going to happen to your client. It's very, very intense, a lot of pressure. I understand sitting there stoically. It's almost too much to bear.
I agree. My experience has been in cases like this, when I've been fortunate enough to be the recipient of a favorable verdict. It's almost thankfulness, a relief. There's nobody jumping up, giving high fives and doing hugs and victory dances. That's just not the way it should happen, and didn't happen here. Yeah,
and what do you say? We got to talk about this prosecution team a little bit more. You are now, Howard Weitzman, promoted to the position of grand poobah of DAs and prosecutors everywhere. We're going to make up that special position for you. Are you, and you have to now call Tom Sneddon because that's part of your duties. What do you say to him on the phone?
I would tell him to continue his retirement plans and give up the reins to somebody else who is more objective and not quite as zealous.
Do you take him to task, or do you say, look, you had a tough case and you lost it?
He was the DA. There's nothing to take him to task for. He had a case that, in my opinion, never should have been prosecuted. I've said that from day one.
It's very clear that Mr. Sneddon, for a very long time, has thought Michael Jackson is guilty. He thought he was guilty in '93. It's clear that he thinks that he's guilty now. He feels that he has a duty to prosecute him. I'm sure he recognized that the evidence was not as strong as he would have liked. He was helped by the judge's ruling on 1108, bringing in all of these other
a ruling which many people, myself included, think was correct. But
you know, I mean, the bottom line is the jurors have spoken, and that's the way the system works.
But you know what? We saw these witnesses. For the most part, they were horrific witnesses, in my opinion. Less than credible, less than truthful, a lot of baggage. They seemed not prepared. The prosecution stumbled through most of their presentation. It was just a case not well thought of.
All right, let's talk about the future now. We saw in O.J. Simpson's case, criminal case, a case that you were part of, Sean Chapman Holly, as part of the Johnny Cochran law firm, a not guilty or favorable verdict to the defense come out of the criminal trial, yet after that, a civil case was filed and O.J. Simpson lost. Are we looking at a civil case coming out of this?
Well, if we are going to believe the prosecution's witnesses, they're not interested in money, and they're not going to file a civil case. Well, I don't think we believe that. I think we expect to see a civil case, and of course, in a civil case, the burden of proof is much, much lower than in a criminal case. All the plaintiff has to prove is that this happened by a preponderance of the evidence. I'm not sure with that evidence and these witnesses whether or not they would win the civil case either.
I have to tell you something, though. There's a problem here. You've had two lawyers say they weren't going to file a civil case. That would be witnesses if they file a civil case. You had the mother say she wasn't looking for the money, going to file a civil case. I would be surprised if one is filed here, and the lawyer that takes that is doing it for all the wrong reasons, in my opinion.
There's a lot of lawyers out there who take that case, though.
Certainly there may very well be, with our stellar reputation in the community as attorneys. They don't call us, of course, so they need us, and then, you know, we're the heroes. But let's talk about that issue that you just brought up. Can the statements that we heard coming from this courtroom, statements by two attorneys who had had contact with this family before this criminal lawsuit saying, you know, I'm not too sure about this, is that evidence if there is a civil suit?
Yes, unless you have the same judge.
Oh, stop it now. So the idea that there may or may not be a civil suit, we've yet to find that out, but certainly a lot bodes against it. Tom Stettin, the prosecutor in this case, talking now at the podium.
First of all, I want to begin by saying that I'm very proud of our office. I'm proud of all the people that worked on this case. I'm particularly proud of Gordon and Ron, the team we put together, and the Sheriff's Department, which did, I think, an outstanding job of investigating this case and assisting us in putting on the evidence before the jury here. So that's the first thing I want to say. I guess the second thing I want to say is obviously we're disappointed in the verdict, but we work every day in a system of justice. We believe in the system of justice. And I've been a prosecutor for 37 years, and 37 years I've never quarreled with a jury's verdict, and I'm not going to start today. So basically, that's all we really have to say. I'll answer a few questions, but I'm probably not going to remain too long. So if anybody has a question, far away.
I think we're going to start over here.
See how it goes.
Can you hear me okay?
I certainly can.
Right. Have you spoken with the accuser and his family, and if so, what was their mood and reaction to the verdict today?
No. That's all.
Can you address the defense's allegation throughout the trial that you rushed into this prosecution because of your past history with Mr. Jackson?
My past history of Mr. Jackson had absolutely, unequivocally, nothing to do with our evaluation of this particular case. That's been a nice little 30-second soundbite that the media has used to try to justify this thing, but it had never had anything to do with either the sheriff's investigation or our decision to file.
Can you address the fans' claim that the Santa Barbara DA was somehow trying to frame Michael Jackson, and all of this really is an elaborate scheme to frame Michael Jackson and make him look guilty?
I just answered that question.
Mr. Sneddon, in retrospect, do you think you had the wrong family on the stand?
I don't know how much work you do in the criminal justice system, but the system I worked in for 37 years is that people come in and they're the victims of crime. We don't select our victims, and we don't select the families they come from. What we do is we evaluate the case. We try to make a conscientious decision as to whether or not we have enough evidence to go forward. And that's what we did in this case. We've done it in every other case since I've been the district attorney in this county, and we will continue to do that as long as I'm district attorney of this county.
You stand by what the family said in court?
I think that's evident.
There have been a lot of claims that because of the gag order you haven't been able to address. I mean, fans have, even Jackson's mother has said that you have some involvement with the Ku Klux Klan. Fans have claimed that you have relatives who are among the witnesses. Do you want to address any of those now that you finally can?
They're all false. We all did our job. We did it conscientiously. And anybody who knows Tom Sneddon, knows Gordon Auchincloss, and knows Ron Zonin, the things that we've done in our community and the families that we have, knows all of that to be untrue. And if people would simply take the time to investigate the allegation before they print it, they'd know it's untrue also.
Have you looked into...
All right, there you have it. Words from Tom Stettin himself. When we return, our final thoughts on the Michael Jackson trial. Are you shocked by this verdict? Well, if you are not alone. Stay with us. The jury has rendered its verdict in the Michael Jackson case, a long-awaited verdict in the opinion of some after about 7 days, give or take, some partial days in there. Not guilty on each and every of the 10 counts. We've got about a minute left. Give me your final thoughts, folks.
My final thoughts are it was the right verdict based on the evidence that was presented. I thought the evidence was not credible and less than believable.
I want to thank you guys. This has been an absolute pleasure for me. It's been a pleasure meeting you. We never met before. On behalf of Ricky Kleeman and all of you, you guys did a great job, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Ditto, man.
All right.
Great.
All right. Thank you.